North Florida chapter to please come up and have a seat. As you're aware, these are the award winners from our region, so we're going to take the opportunity. Yes, definitely. So we want to give them a space for us to hear from them, but then also for us to ask questions. Now, we sent out an assignment prior to, and part of that had the links to watch the video where they spoke for an hour about their chapter. So I trust that everybody has done that. So instead of them just going over that, we have a few questions that they're going to answer, and then we have space for us to ask questions as well. But the first one up is, since winning, what have you done to take your chapter to the next level? And we're giving you about 10 minutes, so there's plenty of time for everyone to share.
Well, as part of my introduction, once you have an award-winning chapter, the next hardest thing to do is to do it again. And so that's why I remember what an inspiration GLF was and how much I got out of this conference. And so I invited my entire board to come and said, we'll figure out a way to pay for it. Luckily, we do have good revenues with our events. And, you know, there's always money and there's ways to make money. So I invited them, and we did this last year, and only 2 people came. It was just Claire and myself. And this year, we had 5 people come, and that's what I wanted to see, because I realized the effect that GLF had in me was sort of like taking my roots from being wide and shallow to really giving them new soil for them to go deeper and really tying me into coaching and my chapter. And I thought I have to make this available to more people, and since after talking about it, everyone now wants to be president. So it's like, hey, this is good. So that's why I have my board here. That's why I bring them here, and I want to start thinking about next year already, even though I won't be president. I'm treating Angie like she's the president and treating Lubna like the vice president so that they can really step into the roles before they have to do the role, because we only do 1-year terms. We don't do the full 2-year term. Because you also kind of get burned out, but even on this track, you're vice president, president, and then immediate past president. So I'm on a 3-year plan here. There's still 1 more year. Next year I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be there, and it's kind of like being the grandparent. You get to just do the fun project that you want to do and help everyone else do the heavy lifting.
Awesome. Yeah, I love coming up with new things. In fact, I'm addicted to it, and it may actually be at my detriment at times. So coming out of the shoot, especially out of this, and also Vancouver, I was just like, let's do this. How can we play? And I have a huge list of all the fun innovations that I did, or that our team did, actually. But one of the things that we found success with, we use Wild Apricot for our website, and we've been keeping track for the past year of who's showing up at all of our meetings digitally, so that later on I can say something like this: we had 29 events, 544 people registered, 392 checked in, 122 were unique participants, of which 77 were members, and then we issued out 11.75 core competencies and 3.75 resource credits so far, and we still have a couple more events. That was from November till now. We had a large board turnover in April, which most of them finished their term. We had 2 that chose to move on before they finished. And so a lot of new people came on. And one of the things I was grateful for was Global gave us this awesome training for board members. And right out the chute, I invited my board for everyone to take that training. And I think it was helpful for them to get one of the important things for me, I think Matt will agree, we learned a lot last year about our relationship to Global.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh yeah, that was huge.
Right. And so that through that board thing gives us an introduction, but at Global also we learned a lot about the importance of, oh wait, we're not only making members for our local, but we're making members for global members, and really that's what really counts when they look at our chapters, right? Part of it is a global membership.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pause with that.
And I think that's part of what you were asking, like what made us, get the award was really acquiring more members in ways that we didn't even know. So there was some action happening in the chapter that activated people, not only locally, but we have a few members that are actually outside of Florida, and we learned this at GLF actually, that our membership had grown like over 50%, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was not only members from our chapter, so how can each one of you energize whatever you're doing in your chapters and activate it so that that energy and that excitement goes beyond the barriers of your own chapter and goes beyond the limitations physically that we have of just ICF South Florida, but to connect with other people. I think we have someone that joins from like Australia or something in different time and everything. We're like, how is this person here? But they're part of our chapter. So that would be something that I wanted to share. Just think about how can you excite everybody in your area, but also think that there are no limits, you could go anywhere else.
And based on experience that we had in the past, we also decide that the president is going to serve for 3 years. No, it's going to be former president, and past president, and president-elect. So the 3 years, I think that they show the continuity that we need for the success of the chapter.
We started offering virtual programs, and I was very inspired by LA, who has a huge membership from doing virtual programs. So we have a virtual happy hour now, which our members can show up, and we have an online form for them to choose topics beforehand that show up, and they register, come on, and our communication director, Laura DiTomaso, is hosting those right now on Zoom. And so it's an informal conversation. The first one we had a little prep talk, short talk by one of the members to kind of guide us through something, and then we had a conversation about it. And those have been fun. And then we're starting some virtual programs. We have one coming up this month, and one of our members is an expert, is going to talk about security and how do we make sure that privacy, we support our clients with privacy with using online tools, which will be very helpful. And then one of the things I say is I really focused on, I requested from Global, what's the secret to getting core competency CEUs? And so asking my program director to make sure to emphasize that whatever a speaker is offering, how do they tie it to the core coaching core competencies? Not only that, but how do they speak to it specifically at our meetings, at their talk, which those are the most important things that we need, right? For renewing, 30 core competencies and 10, I believe, of resource, right? And 3 of ethics. Good.
Well, and I'll just say, because when I mentioned they were challenging assumptions, that was probably my huge aha at the very end of GLF in Vancouver, because I could not define the word membership. So just take a moment and think what the word membership means to you in your chapter. Because I defined it as coaches that pay our chapter activity fee to be a member of the South Florida chapter. That's what I've always defined membership as. And after the transition, we also make sure that they are also members of Global, because that's what Global wants. And when I realized that that's not Global's definition when they're talking about our membership. All Global cares about is Global membership, and then they're a member of your chapter if they affiliate with your chapter on their Global membership. And that's the number that they're keeping score on. And so my assumption has been wrong for 3 years. And one of my, I was like, boy, that's wrong. We used to spend about $100 to produce a webinar, and I'm like, this is a lost leader. Why am I entertaining these people that aren't paying my chapter activity fee and losing money on it as a chapter? Until all of a sudden I realized that new definition of membership, and now I'm like, I need to do more webinars because they engage all the members and nobody has to drive through South Florida traffic, because our members won't go 15 miles. So my hat's off to you, sir, for going 2 hours. We had somebody drive down from Melbourne down to our last meeting for 2 hours. And you'll do that once because you're a little crazy and you want to meet everyone, but you won't do that consistently. But webinars do make it easy for everyone to be there, and they engage everyone. So that where it's like, wow, I had an assumption and I need to do a 180 because I'm doing the wrong thing, and I realized it.
Yeah, speaking to that, I like technology, so I am able to export with Wild Apricot, which is our system, our local members, and then we can all export the data for current active members. And then I set up a spreadsheet where it compares to tell us, okay, who is global, who's not, who could be global that's local, who could be local that's global that's not. And then from that, the invitation, we actually just lost our membership person, actually got a huge gig, and decided to move on and focus attention on that. So we're in between that, but I really loved what Matt's team did about the outreach and making phone calls and the difference it made. So that
definitely made a big difference for us. When I first came to the chapter, I came as VP of programming, over a year and a half ago. And that was like my first question, because I was looking at our social media component on like our Facebook page, and I could see just like very boring, just every event, and we kind of advertise the event 5 times in a row, back to back, and then I'm thinking, this feels very robotic, very like click, click, click. Let's just connect with people as the human beings we are, and as the coaches that we are, and just start picking up the phone. I think we had an event that we were.
There's like 5 people signed up, and we're like, oh man, we gotta
like
get up
5
here.
people signed up, and we were like, okay, let's just do a phone call attack, you know. And we divided the whole chapter membership between the board, just to give you an idea of how to do it. Not just one person calling everyone, but just divided all the memberships, you know, list, and we made the agreement, number one, and second, the actionable thing was like, who's gonna take what, so that we're not calling 3 times the same person. So that made it really easy. Also, each one of us was calling less than 15 people, you know, so it made it a lot easier to do this before the event happened, and it just created a whole life of its own, and people became more engaged and started coming back to the meetings. And I mean, after the phone calls, we started doing some of the coachalates, which I heard from a chapter today. I think it's Georgia chapter.
Yeah, we got that from Sarah.
I
I stole that idea.
Today. I remember that today at the gym. Actually, I met Denise at a workout this morning. So we embraced that. So it was like the phone call. People started coming in, and we realized we had members everywhere that we could organically start meeting with each other. We didn't have to make a whole meeting and spend all the money. And then we embraced the coachalates, and that also was a big initiative from Matt that I like, and I think it has served our chapter this year very well.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because we started off calling it Morning Coach because we didn't want to steal their idea, and then we got a cease and desist letter from a lawyer because somebody had trademarked Morning Coach and morningcoach.com. So we're like, all right, let's go back to Coach a Latte. That's not trademarked. Thanks, Denise, and don't get any ideas, right? I'll reach to the patent office. But
And I do
you
want
know.
to add that the people that we called, you know, became active, and some of them became board members.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
just that phone call, so we disconnected, and it was like, okay, this is weird. I've never called anyone to invite them over, but please come over. And you know, it creates that relationship. So the person you're talking to and you will have some kind of a different relationship that they've never been to one of the meetings.
And also we realized that there are a lot of Spanish speakers that they don't speak English, and maybe there is a need for them, so we started to make these Spanish events that I wrote with them. In my case, I'm from Argentina. I live in Spanish. I live in Miami. That there is plenty Spanish speakers. I don't have to speak in English, and I work with people from Latin America. So I just speak English here with you. and when I coach my soccer team or my girl and my boy. So we found out that there is a niche over there, and we have these Spanish events also.
Well,
So-
thank you very much. The next question is, what new challenges have you faced since you received the award?
I'll start. I was realizing that celebrations are also challenges. So one of them is membership kind of thing, and so using Wild Apricot before we can see who's registered and who's not members. So the invitation to the board was, if you see somebody who's not a member, we charge $20 to come to our meeting if you're not a member. If you're a member, it's free. So invite them. Instead of paying $20 today, pay $75 if you're a global member and become a local member, or $125 to become an associate member, affiliate. And then it'll be free for you, and every meeting will be. And then there are lots of other benefits too. So just, I think it was about 3 times, I saw somebody up front, introduced myself to them, and invited them, and they chose yes. It was a simple little ask, right? And that was quick. The other one was, I shifted the name tags of the board members. All of them were white before, and it didn't say if you were a board member or not. And so that we could all be distinguished somehow, so come and see us. And also having every single board member come up front and give a quick little announcement of what they're up to and who they are, and introduce themselves every time was something that I added with the idea of, which is a challenge for me too. It's like, some people love the old model of leadership, which is Ryan's going to lead us with his vision and bring us all together, and I'm the let's make space for all of us to lead. We all have something beautiful to contribute. And so one of the things I did in our meetings was create 4 different sections. The easy part is to report what you've already done and to approve what we did before and to ask for what we need. So that's normal. But then I wanted to have beforehand do celebration and contributions. So not only let me celebrate. These are the things that I've accomplished, but also let me acknowledge the other board members. So each of us can type in, thanks so much for what you did with this, acknowledge each other, and then the first part is a collaboration and commitments. So this is where I can use some support on this thing that I'm committed to. We'd also do our voting, our quorum at that point. And then we have an open space and mastermind if anybody has something that they want to brainstorm with us during our meetings. And there's some challenge around that too, because I've got a board that wants to be very task focused, and they're exceptionally skilled also. And so to add that relational, my intention is how can we be there for each other, be there for each other as people, coaches, and board members, and also be there for our community together with our community. And one of the things Wild Apricot had, how do you engage members, was if you have members that are actually going out and they're so engaged that they're the ones doing all the recruiting, they're the ones showing up with leadership, that's the ultimate membership. Yep.
Yeah, one of our biggest challenges has been probably my leadership style. Because it's a little bit different. I've worked with a lot of not-profits, and you have to lead in the exact opposite of what you teach any executive in any corporation, right? Because they think they're the top of the pyramid. And when you're in a not-for-profit, you have to flip that pyramid over. You serve your members. As president, I serve my board members, and I am at the bottom, and all rows downhill to me. And when everyone does their job, my life is easy. And whenever something doesn't work out, it's my fault, and I have to own it and take responsibility for that. So that's the way I see that sort of bottom-up leadership, that I am serving my board members who serve all my members. And we always ask through phone calls or at meetings. We had a great membership person, Paula, who was very good at asking people to volunteer. And so I have my sort of style of leadership where it's very non-centric, where I want you to find your motivation and your passion, and if it's big enough for a board role, you're a board member. You don't want to be a board member and be on the conference calls, but you want to help us do PR? Great. You're now on the PR committee. And I found instead of thinking like those big loans, and now they have like micro loans where like just $20 can make a huge difference. Just 20 hours of effort from any volunteer in your chapter can make a big difference for the chapter, but then it becomes a logistical problem in managing it. We have lots of people who do a lot of little things, but I don't have the people focused on that. And that was probably the biggest loss of opportunity that I had, because we filled our board. We have 11 board members, so I feel very blessed for that. And that, you know, your success becomes the challenge. It's like, okay, I got to manage these people who are managing the big things, but now the next thing is to get them to manage 2 or 3 sub-volunteers under them that just want to do some tiny little projects. And if I can get that kind of depth going, we can really get a lot done with our chapter.
One of the other challenges is how to support coaches to get their credentialing hours, right? So I'm experimenting, I haven't made it live yet, but also on our website, by using the event. Basically an event is anything where people are going to sign up for, right? So it doesn't have to be a program event. It could be volunteer. We also promote our volunteer on them, but there's an option where people can see who is signed up, which we usually don't show people. But I want to show them of here's some people that are volunteering, that they're willing to trade coaching, swap coaching with you, so you can get your hours together, and you can take yourself off the list anytime. So this is something new I'm looking forward to, which is a constant challenge I've heard from people. Like, I'm trying to get my hours. How can I do this? So, and that one I'm excited about pumping up. And then pro bono coaching, we're continuing to do that. And for me, I have a little thing in my heart of like, wow, can we do a lot of that? I'm like, can we expand? And then also, are we serving the population that really needs us the most? So we've been partnering with Mission Capital Partnership, and they are a local organization that supports all nonprofit leadership, and they do leadership development. So after their training, we'll often do pro bono coaching with them. And yes, then that expands out and ripples out to the rest, like some of the award winners did. But then I'm thinking, hey, we've got some veterans, we've got some homeless people, some people that are out of their jobs. Could we expand to that? So one of the challenges is, how many people do we have that can volunteer? How many people can serve? So the bandwidth of that. So the challenge for me is to be gracious, and but some of the magic is some of our members and also past board members are out rocking it, doing stuff in the back end that may not be said as like they're ICF Greater Austin, but they are in a way representatives. So that's been beautiful. And then one of the challenges too is how do we bring in all of Texas, right? So we have an All Texas Conference, which your team and Carissa, you're part of that, yes?
A little bit.
A little,
More
or
of
San Antonio actually. There's some.
promoting it.
Yeah.
Not the organizing.
And then the HR Southwest or Southeast, Southwest, Southwest Conference is coming up, and Matt's going to be there, right? And so how do we bring? And then we have, how do we bring people together? That we have 4 chapters, right, in Texas, that we can collaborate together more is another challenge, so that we can be there for each other instead of being individuals that are out there doing the same thing, which is fine, but it's so much more fun when we collaborate. So.
Yeah, and something I was talking to people in the car coming here is that we did, and I remember Matt being more emphatic about it, is that we divided, our chapter is also kind of big. It's like from Key West beyond Fort Pierce, and like we said, we had someone driving 2 hours. I think some of you guys have the same challenges. We really appointed 2 people on the board that would take different, it's the same role but different areas kind of. And even though it's like an hour and a half away from each other, but Key West is like a good 3 hours if you're gonna make it to Key West. And Fort Pierce is also, depending on where you're coming, it's really far. So we divided programming north and south. So we got a VP of programming who would handle the south, which would be like Miami, all the way down to Key West if they wanted to drive up to Miami. And then Boca, which was kind of like active at the moment. So really engage them and make them feel that we were doing stuff for the chapter on both ends, and we really tried to make it consistent. So we brought a speaker in. The speaker would speak in Boca in the morning and in Miami in the evening. And then we would swap it just to kind of be fair. We were really testing it a little bit too, to see the engagement that we got in Miami in the evening versus the morning and so forth. So it's an invitation, to try that in your chapter if you have a really big chapter, but you're able to connect people or bring someone in your board that would own being your VP of programming or events at a different area, that you cannot be serving all the time constantly, but you could pair up when you're bringing a guest speaker, when you're doing a cultural anthem or something like that.
Yeah,
it's
so
like
don't make your
ownership.
members drive 2 hours, make your speaker drive 2 hours and let them do 2 shows.
Exactly.
And if you pay them a little per diem, they're probably happy to do that.
Bob
But
is
we-
taking notes, huh, Bob?
Yeah.
And it really activated our chapter in a real touch human community more than just keeping up with the webinars. Actually, we lower our webinars a little bit and do more live events. Maybe next year we need to balance that out because of all the things that we heard with getting CCUs and actually serving the members to move forward with their credentials with global, and as well with their own profession. Some want to hear more about how to build their profession or transition it to a different level.
Can I tell one more on myself?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to tell one on myself. So one of the big challenges I had was, every board member has a different expectation of what it means to lead, to be part of the board, and in that transition in April, there was a little kickback at the bidding from a couple board members, and I noticed in my energy, I was like, wow, I felt a little gutted. Like, here we are, volunteers who are all contributing. How can we appreciate all of us and be there for all of us? And so the challenge I've been challenging myself is, how do I show up fully, loving and leading, even in the face of resistance, in the face of challenge? Like, it's so easy for me to have an amazing playmate who wants to go create, and the people that were in line with it, yay! But then when there's a little tension there, like, how can I still show up, not just be compassionate and feel like I got kicked and let me go walk away and go learn and lick my wounds, but really show up still somehow. And I'm not sure. So that's something I'm growing into, is when that shows up, when there's a little tension. And I'm very supportive for, as presidents, we get support from a mentor. And so, and the magic of alignment of how I got the mentor that I got, that somehow had the weirdest connections that I have, was incredible and very supportive of me to be able to be authentic and not just get stuff done, but to be able to upgrade and transform myself as a leader.
Do you choose your mentor, or
We have an opportunity to say, is it a match just like coaching, right? But they magically somehow found us. Yeah.
It's magic.
All right, so the next question is, what do you see as the next opportunity for your chapter to have its doors aligned?
Well, I'll lead off on that one because we're trying to do the webinar, and we have our in-person events, and we have our Coach Lattes, and we're now trying to see where it's kind of like, well, it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity to get our live events live streamed. So we invested $800 in this Mevo camera, so you're experiencing it right now because this is the third event that I've worked on recording it with to see how we can at least record it to put it on YouTube and make it a benefit to our members, and also then to everyone else within the coaching community to generate the content. And once we started doing it, all of a sudden we had this giant question from our programming person, and it's like, wait a second, if we offer this online, people aren't going to pay the $40 or $50 to come to the event and fight the traffic. And it's like, okay, well, with every opportunity, we create a new problem. So we're still trying to experiment. Maybe we'll do a little delayed broadcast, or maybe it'll be like the NFL. If enough people don't sign up in person, we're going to black it out and not live stream it. Or, you know, it's like, there's ways around that, right? Remember that back in the day before you just watch every game every season? Yeah, we're all old enough. So, you know, those are some interesting things to like, how do I reach more people? Because again, I shifted my focus on membership, and I'm like, I got to serve everyone that affiliates with my chapter and give them something so they stay affiliated with my chapter and they feel the love from Global and they want to stay a Global member too. So that's something that we're experimenting with right now. I'm controlling the camera and the camera angles from my phone. I'm not checking text messages, but I haven't. Then you got, like I said, you got to teach somebody else to do it. I love the tech and the toys, so then you got to find someone else to do it. So we're experimenting with that right now.
Yeah. With this investment, we can do more things with the Spanish event for Latin America. We can broadcast it.
Yeah. And when we went to GLF, I actually had a very interesting experience as I was going onto the stage to get our recognition, you know. I said something like, I hope we win it again next year, and I really have someone there say, I hope you don't, and I was like, what? So that startled me, because we're all coaches, so I'm like, but it brought me to a place where you were talking right now, not just to get a kick like, oh, or you don't want me to win again. I was just like, let me think about this deeper, what he's saying to me. And then I thought, yeah, maybe I don't want to win this particular award again, because he said to me, I said, why? He's like, because I hope that someone else does. So it was like, okay, he's completely right. So I was like, I acknowledge it now from a different perspective. And by hearing all the amazing stories from Ignite, I was blown away about what we're doing in the world that many of us don't know. And that we are probably doing it in our chapter, but we're not recognizing it because we haven't taken the thought or the time to look into it. So for me personally, for next year, this is going to be one of the goals that we're trying to align together. And Matt saw it too, what we've been talking about it, which we started with our last survey to measure what is everybody doing in ways of social change, like how much volunteer our members doing, so we can start measuring it, since we love to get data back and share with Global. And we were not doing it. And personally, me and another board member are assisting in a jail homestay facility, and we're doing a few hours a year. So how many of your team members are doing this? So we're beginning to just measure that, and then connect it to really outsource coaching and bring it into the community so that we do more social change next year. So we're putting those oars together. And we, I think, I haven't shared this with you, but in the last meeting...
Well, I have an announcement. No, this is...
because it was fascinating that I spoke with Denise this morning, and I said intentions, and we started today, and thank you for that, with what are our intentions? As coaches, what is your intention as next president for next year? What are your intentions? Just put it into the world. What are your challenges? And from that challenge, pick your intention. What are you looking for? So that the energy starts working out. And since we spoke about it, and I went to this graduation from these women who are in jail that are coming out, and they're being trained emotionally and a little professionally to really come back and thrive and not to be back in jail. As I was sitting at the graduation, I remember that they posted in their website that they're looking for coaches and for mentors. And I had envisioned this a year ago without even thinking of what I'm sharing right now, measuring it or anything, but I thought these people are coming out of jail. We could help them so much. So when I was in graduation, I was like, I want to meet the right people that I can talk to connect our ICF chapter with them. And we are having our first conversation in November. So this is really exciting that with the intention since GLA, talking about it a little bit, not putting in a survey, it really came all together. So just wanted to share that idea is for the next year as well.
Yeah. When I went to Vancouver, one of the most exciting things was seeing my peeps from, like you all that were there, you know, from when we met in Florida. You know, thanks for hosting it. And just, there was an energy. So for me, the oars aligned expands beyond my chapter. It's like my chapter is aligned when we're aligned with global strategic plan, vision, and then with each other, like how powerful we can be. And I'm tingly just saying that because I know that's what's going to happen. You spoke to it, Kate. And so, how can I have, I mean, one of my favorite things, I hate mornings. I love nights. I like both ends of the morning. Late, 2, 3 in the morning, and 9, 10. So to get up at 7 in the morning to be on a Zoom call with Southeast Region, at first I'm like, ugh, but I couldn't wait to get to those. Because like to be with committed presidents and vice presidents who are making a difference in their chapters and sharing with each other every time. And thanks Jane and Sakina for being the stand for us to have those, right? That really excited me. So having my the board more commingling with other chapters, other members, and learning with each other instead of just waiting for these events. Because I know after that we continued, right? I mean, Patty, I shared one of the things I shared with Terry, who asked for it from Patty's chapter, is I made I basically took an essence of what they were asking for the chapter activity report to ask my board to let's fill it out together. And so if you're interested, I'm happy to share that with you all too, which could be the goals or guides for next year, right? What are we going to do next year? Well, here's all the stuff that Global's asking about, which creates a high-performing chapter. Not to get the award, but for the difference it makes in our chapter, right? The award's a bonus if you want. Yeah. In fact, it made it so they had to check my bag and ask, what's that lead thing in your bag or something.
You're lucky they didn't confiscate it.
Exactly.
I didn't think about that.
So alignment with Global, alignment with our Southeast region, and collaborating more with all. And every single person I've ever met has been an amazing resource. Anytime I've met it, and Matt, you and Kristen have been incredible. We're going to have a new Southeast region representative from Global. So I encourage you all to do that, to like really reach out to each other. It's amazing how generous people are. Yeah.
So that's some time. What else? Anything else?
Open questions?
Okay, we can
Good.
do that. Yeah.
We have
So now it is.
Stump the panel. I mean,
Yes.
awful.
Questions? Anything? Yes.
What kind of strategies have been successful for you guys to get more volunteers to step up and do the tasks and the work and the things we got to do?
Ask.
Yeah.
You have to. You mentioned that you're a little anxious in the social situation. You gotta ask. Because it's very easy, especially the role of president, it is too big for one individual. It is a full-time job, and you have to make money in your practice too, and you have to take care of your family and meet your other commitments. So you have to keep a list of all the things you want to get done, and you just keep asking until you find people that have attention and alignment, or like, yeah, I'd like to do that, and then you got it. You just keep asking them, and you have to ask them more than once. Because the first time it's kind of like, you're just asking everybody. But that third or fourth time, it starts to really sink in like, wow, they really like me. I must be special. I should join the board. Like the sale. It takes 5 to 7 asks to close the sale. And most people barely ask once, and 85% of people stop after the first ask.
It's become an MO, like it's become our MO every time we meet. It could be a social event, or it could be that we have a presenter. We always have time to ask. Whether it's one-on-one, just while you're talking, or make it, we do a one-on-one, like each board member asked for it, specifically Paula, because she was really into making this happen for us. So we had one person who owned it. It came to the point that we're creating almost a position for, the volunteer, VP of volunteering.
Vice President of asking.
To, like Matt said, to be able to handle it and like take it to the right person, But once you do it one-on-one, and then you make it part of your meeting, like saying, let's just remind you if you want to volunteer for the board, we have such and such and such spaces available that we need help with. So they connect with their excitement of each board member, but also kind of understand what's opening, and if that clicks with them, they will come back and re-see us.
And I learned how difficult it is to say no to a honest, truthful request. And I think that Paula DeLong from South Florida, VP membership, she has the magic touch.
Nice. We upgraded what people fill out when they become a member and their profile. So part of that is, would you be interested in being a board member, or would you be interested in being in volunteering? And here are the different committees and different board positions. So now we have data that we can then follow up with. And these are people who said they're interested. And for me too, there's some natural people who just show up at meetings and they are, how can I help? And they're excited. And they're the ones showing up all the time. They're amazing to ask too. And our current finance director is that person. She, every single meeting, she's like, how can I help? Every single time. And finally, like, hey, you want to be there's a board member position open up? She's like, sure. In order for her to become a board member, she was just starting her coaching program, so she had to join Global and join Local as part of her role, and she was up on it instantly. Yeah. So finding people who are super engaged is, for me, not just fulfilling the role, you know.
Great.
Anyway.
Bob?
What do you charge for your virtual webinars? Are they free?
We've
for
done
registration?
$10 and we've done free. I mean, we've experimented
Free,
with both.
free for members, and right now we're doing it for free. At some point we try to charge the non-members, but I think it's something we're offering for free.
We have an $85 chapter activity fee. We offer a $60 beginning coach membership if they're currently in coach training. And those are the only people that we kind of accept without being members of Global. Because we want them to be members of Global once they finish their coach training. And then we have an affiliate membership at $130 for non-coaches that are it's really for business partners that want to come in and network with the coaches. It's not for non-coaches saying they're coaches. It's for business partners that want to partner with coaches.
Our virtual happy hour is free to members, and only members can register. The email only goes out to the members, so everyone else doesn't get that. And we're experimenting. I bought my iPhone, trying to record, have a microphone hooked up to it, to see what it's like. New York, I think, and LA, and I think it's Washington also, really good at after the fact charging $10 or $20 per program that people can watch afterwards the webinar. And we haven't done that yet.
Yeah. I really want to steal all your secrets as a president,
Steal them.
successful president. So the question I have is, and you shared something, but I really want to give you some more space to focus on this. What tips and strategies have you learned over time to do well the job as president?
Well, you've been the president long.
All right, who here saw Saving Private Ryan? Do you remember the scene when they're in the church and the guys are all bitching and complaining about no food and horrible place to sleep and all the problems, and then one of the guys asks, oh, now his name's on the top of my head. Tom Hanks, right? He's like, hey, Captain, how come you never bitch and complain? And he has to explain to him that bitches and complaints go up the chain of command. And when you're the president, bitches go up to you. You never get to bitch down at any of your board members. Sorry, does not come with the job title, right? That's why you make connections here, so you bitch to other presidents and other chapters that can like, oh yeah, boy, I had a bad one today too. I'll give you 15 minutes if you can give me 15 minutes. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I've had that with a lot of the people here that I've really connected with. And then, you know, you can talk to Global when you have concerns, and then you have to, I always see it as my job to be the lightning rod, because there's always negative energy, negative intention, expectations that aren't met, right? If me, a president, if I laid into every one of my board members for all the expectations of what I thought they could do and they didn't do, boy, I could run them all into the ground and nothing would get done. And so it's always my job to be the lightning rod and try to take each of my board members and take their complaints and their negative energy and draw that in and help them dissipate it. I don't hold on to it. I don't feel bad about it. Like when somebody gives you that shock, it's hard as president because you're kind of a rock star. Like you are the focal point of the chapter, and you got to step into that and use it. You got to pull the negativity out and just dissipate it without holding on to it. Sometimes you need to check in with your other board members that you trust or people outside of your chapter that you trust to get that feedback. Because maybe I am the problem and I'm very blunt, direct, and I have been the problem sometimes. And other times it's just one person's opinion that I just have to dissipate. And then you just have to let them go and keep them all in that positive space, because it's only positive motivation that gets things done. All you have for currency is praise and appreciation, because nobody's getting paid for this job and you're not paying these people. But when you see what they do and you appreciate it and you talk it up, it lights people up and it encourages them to serve more.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, right over here. I'm sorry, you had your hand raised every time.
That's okay. So I have a part A and a part B to the question.
I'll give you some back.
The first part of my question is, what percentage of your membership is actively engaged in volunteering versus engaged in your programming?
Could you define that, volunteering versus, what is engaged in programming?
So I'm hearing that you have people who are engaged to come to whatever you offer as an opportunity for members to get CEUs or network or things like that.
Yeah, like an in-person event.
That's
Okay.
on defining programming. But I've also heard conversation around people stepping up and volunteering for projects or short-term committees, those sorts of things. So I'm trying to get a sense of, from your perspective, what percentage of your membership population is actively involved with those things, i.e. they say yes.
Really, 10%? I mean, we have 200 members.
15.
15, you think? We have 200 members, and out of all 200 members that we are, our board is now up to 11 people. And it was, when I started, we were like 7 or something like that. So that's a membership addition to just to the board itself. And then we have smaller committees that join us depending on the event that come in. And there's a list of people that are sitting there kind of waiting for, and people complaining like, you haven't called me. We're like, yeah, but we haven't done an event that we need more people than the people we have. So I could safely say that 10% is engaged right now.
Great. So then the second
As volunteers.
Great. So the second part of my question is there a differentiation between the people who engage with the chapter offerings in person versus the virtual offerings that you have? Do you find different people show up for those things, or is it the same?
Oh no, it's totally different. Even the time that you offer it. So for example, we used to have lunch meetings, and then we would attract the full-time coaches and what I lovingly nicknamed the debutantes. There are some slightly age demographic above about the median age here where they don't want to drive at night, but they would come to a lunch meeting and they love being social. When we had an evening meeting, it was more networking, have a glass of wine, and we would get people with full-time jobs who in the transition into coaching, and some full-time coaches, but then it's like a younger demographic, like it shifted down 15 years, and it was more social and more fun, and that applied both in Miami and in Boca. So we would flip-flop, and like, okay, we did a morning, then we'll do an afternoon, and then we'll flip it. We get different people. We get different people on the webinars who don't want to drive, and then we get much better. I always say we have 20 to 40 attend a meeting, and we have like 40 to 100 attend a webinar. So it's much bigger, and that's where I was ignoring the data, like, because I'm more like, nah, just go from the heart, man. Just feel it. And I was like, boy, there's a lot of data there. And then when I realized I was doing it wrong, that's when I'm like, all right, we got to bring the webinars back because they're so much more cost effective. Back to your kind of previous thing about programming versus everything else, half of our board is dedicated to programming because it's a lot of work, and we've worked on 3 different levels. We have our Coach Lattes, which are unstructured, just networking. We have our kind of medium level, which is the monthly event, and then we have 2 events that are supposed to be chapter-wide. We have our Ignite, which we have to change the name now that ICF Global has Ignite, but Ignite was giving 5-minute speeches, and we give 14 speaking slots for a night to our coaches and record it and give them the video as a gift. And so we wanted the whole chapter to come to that and the whole chapter to come to a holiday party. So those are kind of like the big events. Half of our board does programming, and then the other half does the outreach and everything else. If you have 4 members on your board, you need the president coordinating everything, you need the vice president backing them up, you need a programming person that has an event, because like they said in Field of Dreams, I don't know why the movie quotes, but they're just coming to me, right? If you have it, they will come. So have the event and start advertising it, and you need a membership person so that the people who show up join and become a member, and then you start asking them to do more and join the board and become volunteers. And at first, when you only have 4 people, ignore the people that just want to give you a micro donation because you don't have time to waste your time getting really spread out. Just keep hitting board members until you get your board built out, and then build out the smaller levels. So, you know, you got to have that.
And Ryan, no, hang on. Wait,
Sorry.
wait, please. Okay, Ryan, go ahead and answer that one,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
answer the one on president,
Yes.
and then we'll get your next question, okay?
Okay, so percentage, we're just starting to keep track of the volunteer percentage data online. So we have, Wild Apricot also has an app. It has an app for members and it has an app for admin. So everything that we put on there where people sign up, we can check in to see what the percentage of people actually are showing up to what they said. So we're putting up our pro bono opportunities, keeping a track of who's showing up for everything. What I've noticed is that we don't have a shortage of people who want to volunteer spontaneously. Like they're there, I'll play. It's the long-term commitment. You know, I mean, we've dedicated how many hours to this, and people don't know, right? They don't know that we're spending this much time. I mean, and I committed. I said, you know what? Even if my business doesn't succeed during this time, I want to do this at this point while I have energy in my life, and I'm in the space of making a difference. And I have amazing people to do that with, and it brings me to life, right? Over here, Giuseppe, Elba, you said it. Let go to let come. Like when I first came in, I'm like, I want to do all this, and why aren't they? They said they want to be on the board. They should be leading. Servant leaders, not volunteering or giving justification, reason why they can't, or why they didn't, but actually showing up with integrity. So having grace, and then when I see that, work on my own craft, and seeing that that's a projection, and also to really support me because I have high standards of myself, to let go so that I can be more peaceful and have ease, and then watch magically how all that disappears and people just step in and start playing at the level that I thought would be amazing. So having grace and also having support, like Matt mentioned, somebody that you can go to that you can trust. It can be a confidential, to just let it out, knowing it's just energy that needs to go out so that you can get to your get back to your commitment in your heart and make a difference from that space.
All right, do you want to have your question then?
Could you explain how you have half of your board devoted to programming?
We have, well, like I say, we do kind of like a sub-chapter, even though it's only about 40 miles between Miami and Boca. People don't want to drive in the traffic because it's very thick in South Florida. So we have Vice President of Programming North, we have Vice President of Programming South, and now we have a Vice President in charge of the webinars because they're really 3 different things. And we have Marcelo as Vice President. He took on the Spanish language programming, but he's also on the programming board among some other projects. So that's 4 out of our 11 people, so 40%, right?
Wow.
Close enough.
Okay.
So because you got to have that programming and it's a lot to chew on, and they need to back each other up because our Vice President of Webinars couldn't show up for a webinar yesterday, and all of a sudden I was on the road in my RV, so I was like, all right, this one can't flow to the president. But the Vice President was right there with the Vice President of Programming with Lubna, and they're like, all right, we got to own this, like, keep doing it until we solve the problem. And then it's like, all right, there's definitely a training opportunity there that we'll get back to.
She even had to change her ticket, you know, because we really had an emergency in the last minute, and she had to say it at that particular time to help us with the webinar. So
As the plane is going.
So
Smiling at the webinar.
programming is a big part of most chapters. This is not my opinion. I've heard this morning as well. And I invite all the members on the board and you as presidents, vice presidents, or upcoming presidents to have this conversation also in your chapter, because it's not only, this is something that happened in our chapter, and I'm super happy to see organically happen, that we're understanding that even though you're sitting in one board position, we are all working together, and this kind of goes with what Ryan is saying. We're all working together for the same final goal. And if someone is not there, like what happened to us, someone else has to jump in and really know kind of what's going on. So kind of like work together with all the board positions, and really get to know each other. What do you need from each other, so that it intertwines and you're weaving it together. And also, programming is not just programming's job. Like if you meet some amazing person somewhere, and they connect with you, and you're the president, the vice president, whomever you are, and you're a volunteer, just bring them on and say, we met this amazing speaker, we could bring it to the chapter. So it brings it to another level.
We have about 10 minutes left, so who else has questions? I see about 4 hands. So when you answer, if you can kind of give fast answers for us. Right here first?
Speed round.
Speed round. That's it.
So to Austin or to Ryan and anyone else who can throw it down on this, there was something in your conversation where that we listened to beforehand about converting or transitioning the chapter from a consumer to a community base. And it really was impactful, but I didn't catch what the mechanics were or what was involved. But I thought it made a lot of difference relative to why people were showing up.
One of the things we have going for us is, I mean, we live in the South, so people are very friendly, and there is community. And every time I go to a meeting, when I first showed up, before I was just thinking about coaching, I went to ICF Austin at a different location. Right away, everyone's welcoming. Hey, and there's that sense that we have this with us. It's like we already know something about us. We're already connected somehow. And yeah, I don't have anything in my brain that says this is about making money from anybody. Everything is about relationship and developing our community of coaches and supporting them. So, like the coaching conversations, for example, is just an informal conversation at a coffee shop, and there are a lot of new coaches that come to that show up, and all of a sudden they feel, like you said, I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm with my people. And just having that, I don't know if we're doing it intentionally, but it just feels like it's an organic thing that's happening. Is people are showing up and they can't wait to see each other again. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, next question.
So thank you all, because I've gotten a lot of really great nuggets from your experience. For those of us, especially coming in new as president of the board, what are some of the best advice you can give us in terms of how we onboard new board members?
I'd say one thing is definitely use the training that we get from Global, because that answers a lot of questions, and it also supports. Look at the bylaws. Here's what you're responsible for as a chapter. Even for us, like I thought, the way we can win an award this time would be to upgrade to becoming a second level, what do they call it, medium-sized chapter instead of a small chapter. And like, what are the goals with that? Go ahead. Why don't you go?
Is that an online module, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, so send that out to them. Send them the bylaws. Don't just tell them it's on Wild Apricot or we use Club Express and it's like, it's in the folder with the directory of the documents, and they never go look for it. Like, you got to send it to them, and then you have to call and follow up with them and kind of assign a mentor. Whoever did it before hopefully can mentor them and what the real expectations are for the job, and gives them a person they can ask questions to. Like, we have Misha going from secretary to membership, and she was terrified of it, and I'm like, Paula, who just did it, is going to programming. She's right there. She's still at the board members, still at the board meetings. So you have that as a mentor to learn how to do it. Your biggest role as president, I used this time a year ago to start planning my presidency, my goals, my initiatives, and what I wanted to lay out. So even if the people up here talking aren't like connecting with you, you can still use this as private time away from your business to always be meditating and thinking about what you want to do with your presidency and what you want that to look like.
There were 2 more hands. Where were they? Okay, let's do this right here, and I'll get you next. Okay.
Yeah, both of you mentioned enjoying technology, but also just finding processes for streamlining things. What are your top 2 or 3 things that have helped save time, whether it's with CCEs or registration or just all of the administrative things that can become really cumbersome?
Well, before I got there, the process was there was a template for a certificate, and then the person would go in and type everyone's name in individually. No, send it as a PDF as an attachment to their email personally. And now it is an automated thing. All the person in the program has to do is look at who all the people have checked in, send email to all of those people. It automatically fills in the event, fills in the CC views, and then just have to press send. The only thing that could change is if there are more core or whatever the difference is in resource. but it's automated, and they can schedule it to be sent 2 days after or something. So that was very helpful. And then also we have an ROI that we ask after the programs, and then that's connected to the CCUs also. So using the technology for the automation has been really helpful to me. One of the problems with expanding and offering a lot of more programs now is giving more emails to the people. So we had one member who's a grad student saying, I'm getting way too many emails for you. So like how...
That's a good problem. That's a good complaint.
Interesting though, but like, so how do we, now that we're offering so many more programs, how do we maybe reduce the, figure out what are the touch points necessary, the reminders and stuff? Or could we do, who was sharing with me earlier, they have, Elise, was it? That you're in charge of putting out the communication for, you have a summary of, here's what's coming up. So doing that instead of every time for every program we have, there's another reminder that people are getting.
And definitely get a software program. He's on Wild Apricot. I'm on Club Express. We could debate the pros and the cons of that for another hour, which we're not. Write a grant to Global, they'll pay for it. They'll give you $500 or $1,000 to invest in a website and get that back-end program, and then get your revenue going so that you can hire a virtual assistant to send out that stuff, because we have somebody that puts in the event and then sends out the CEUs afterwards so that we don't burn out our board members, because I did all that. We started on MailChimp for free, we took money through PayPal, and I had Google Contacts for our membership list. And it was a disaster, but it got the job done.
Excellent. Last question.
Yes, Ryan, this is for you. With the virtual happy hour, how did you pitch that to create synergy around it?
Well, we started out with, there's a new option on Wild Apricot where you can poll your members. So we started asking, would you like, what day of the week, what time of the day, would you be interested in feeling who showed up? And then we have, of course, you can register, and then what topics would you want? So at first, it was a small group. I think there were about 10 people, which is fine, right? It's in the middle of the night. We're just having a conversation. And surprisingly, it feels like people want to connect. And then this was a new thing for us to do virtual, which made it so people could be anywhere. They could be in their underwear if they want, you know, like coaches pay. No, but no, we don't do that.
At least put a clean shirt on.
Yeah, webcams up the side. You know, but yeah, so it felt like it was also a need that was missing for us too, because we have the greater Austin area, and then we also have people that might not be able to be as mobile. So it supported it, and it felt like the regulars who show up anyways wanted something more who were showing up, and with a few newbies.
All right, perfect. We have 3 minutes. Any last one that we didn't get? Okay, what I would invite you guys to do is, we're here for the next 2 days. So grab them, sit with them over a meal, sit with them over a drink this evening, whatever, and ask those questions that you have. But this is a great space to do it, and that's why we wanted to start out with some best practices and some things to get you thinking. So we're going to take a break with a couple of things. I would like for you first to take just a few moments to write down 1 or 3 of the best practices that you will apply. Something that you're going to go back and take to your chapter and say, you know what, we have got to investigate this. And then after you're through with that, if I could please invite you to grab all of your stuff and take it over on one of these 3 tables and lay it. So when you come back from break, we need to have a clean area on which to play. Okay?
And I want to add one more invitation. I want to learn as much as I can too. So you may have heard things that I'm trying to work on that you have input. Please, I'm guessing we all would love your input too. It's not just coming from us to
we'll
you.
be asking you questions.
Yes, so please. You said you wanted to contribute. I heard that, so bring it.
I'm going to throw one more nugget out there, and just try to be honest, and you don't have to if you don't want to be. Who here has already read the chapter activity report? Right.
Wait,
So
your activity report?
no, there is a blank template that you have to fill out by the end of this month.
Oh, yeah.
And about how many of you have read the template?
We're completing it.
Yeah, you're completing it right now. You want to read that now and start filling out the questions for next year. What programs,
Yes.
what are your goals for next year? Because that's really the template of what Global wants us to do as a chapter. And that was sort of like the burning question I always had and never could consciously ask. And then I read that and I'm like, oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And like I didn't even know about pro bono coaching or even think about that until I read it. So when Angie, my board this year, I gave them all a copy of it and said, we're going to begin with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey suggests. And here's the report. Read it now and start filling out your goals for next year if you're here as a president-elect.
All right, so write down 1 to 3 things in your book and then put your items over on the tables, please. You have 15 minutes, we'll be back at 4.